Hey, family and friends. I thought I'd make a video again. It's been a while. Um, Somehow, whenever I turn the camera on and my words dry up. So I gotta get over that situation because when I'm talking to my friends and family, I know who I'm talking to. So I can say what's on my mind. When I'm talking to you, or whoever's watching this, I don't know where you're coming from, and I don't know. I guess what I'll say is I'm moving. I'm moving from one way of being to another way of being, and the reason being for that is that I found a better way to be than the way I used to. Um, let's try and break that down. Uh, the I was just watching a podcast. Well, actually, yeah, don't remember the name of he's a Christian podcaster, and he's watching a recent interview that was done by on a podcast with Cam Newton. I don't know if any of you don't know who Cam Newton is. He's former NFL football player, quarterback. Yeah, and he has a podcast, and a lot of his podcast is about sort of his social life. Let's say his point of view is that if you have money, you have as many partners as you can or want, and then as long as you can take care of the kids with financially, then you're set. And the other person speaking with him is like a pastor. I guess it is a pastor. I've seen him before. He's more like a man's coach, biblical man's coach. So the discussion is going on about Cam Newton's fear of getting involved in a marriage contract or agreement because I guess ultimately the woman could leave him and take his money, and so yeah, and also I think another one, I've watched some of his podcasts in the past. I don't watch it regularly, but when in the past I watched him expound on it a little bit. And his point of view is that several points of view, but if you one of them is if you can get away with it, with financially. Oh, the other thing is he'll get bored. You'll get bored of an agreement like that. One or the other is going to get bored, and it's just not going to last, and then you're going to be stuck with an agreement that you don't like. So then the Christian point of view is that that God created man and woman with a plan in mind, and that was to have people who were raised to do his work, right? And his work being the work of good on earth. Anything from compassion to doing charitable work, or just being upstanding in your dealings, like honest in your relationships with one another and communicating and other things like that. But so the children have to be raised to have those characteristics, and also to be capable of raising another generation. All right, okay, now I'm going to get to the point of what I wanted to say. I tried to get this. Okay, let me see if the camera. Yeah, it's not following me, Joy. I kind of wanted to have it aiming at in a direction that wasn't with the medical supplies in the background, but it doesn't really matter.
It's moving.
Oh, I thought you moved it. It moved?
Yeah.
Well, let me see if it'll follow me over there. I'm going to get a nicer background in there.
Oh, no, it's not following you.
No, it's not following me. Okay. bought this device, like a selfie stick that it's supposed to follow you on this stand, but
You think it got broken?
I don't think it's broken. It just doesn't work very well. Piece of crap. I should have returned it the day I bought it. I actually wanted to see if I could mount it on the wheelchair here and have it.
Try to move.
Follow me.
Can you try to move?
Well, I did. I went off camera. It should follow me. No, normally it follows your face, so.
I don't know what happened.
Just turn it toward the curtain. All right, that's better. Well, a little bit less. It's turned too much now because I can't go over there. Okay.
Oops, be careful now.
Yeah. All right. Continuing that conversation, I'll use one of those trimmers to get it fixed up, I guess. So I remembered what I was going to say. Now it's kind of slipped my mind, but I'll get it back. Yeah, lately I deal with a lot of different things that have to do with the nerves in my body. It's been a very confusing journey, and I'm still on it. A lot of it has to do with things in the mind that the Holy Spirit is teaching me through direct experience. And I don't know, that I'm capable yet of getting into deciphering what exactly what he's telling me. But I getting back to the subject of men and women and children. So okay. The question is, are we and is our future that of a society where our children are nothing more than biological human reproductions of ourself? Okay? If that's the case, and that's kind of how society over the last several hundred years, I guess, or even just 100, I don't know exactly how long, but it's been pushing toward since the Industrial Revolution. And I'll give a little theory about it, or at least that ties into what I'm talking about in terms of marriage. So when the Industrial Revolution happened, there was a lot of work, a lot of jobs that big industry wanted to fill. And women came into the workplace at a certain point, and then it became, in the United States, it became about bringing women to equal rights. That's what was touted, and equal rights in that case was going out and being able to work and be independent, like quote unquote men were. So there might have been another ulterior motive behind sort of that, and that motive was to take the children out, to the video pause, to take the responsibility out of the hands of the parents. And the motive for that would be, the idea behind that would be that parents might raise their children to be, live in the way that they lived, and the thought was by the intellectuals that were furthering this, convinced a lot of people that, this is our right to work, this is our right to leave the family. But in the same token, it also completely devalued what women had done for millions of years, which is to be able to raise children. And it basically said, no, a machine could do that. A properly trained machine could do that job. So, eventually we'll get to a place where we'll have machines doing that, and you guys could just, you people can just live your life and do whatever you want all the time. So then, that thought process has infiltrated people's minds and the general population. And the means by which this was enacted into people's minds is let me make the case for that. It's that they enacted this because they wanted to take the children away and raise them in the schools, because they thought in that context they could create systems whereby these children would learn to be available as adults for this system that they were creating. And available as adults meant, for the free for all. Even as kids, like some of them, as long as they were raised in a wealthier background, they might have the opportunities to go to school and things. And then coming from a poor background, since all you are is an organism, if it was your fate to be a sex slave or whatever, in that case, just a slave, then you ended up that way. And so that was fine. You were just an organism that was trained to do that. So with that mindset in mind, the whole idea of being a mother or being a father is a lot less. So then the idea of being a man or a woman also becomes less of a distinctive, specific role or characteristic or task of a human. So because if you take away that idea from a person, that they are fulfill their role in life by being a father or being a mother, then you can have free access to the children's mind. Okay, then the next step with this kind of thinking is that, because people are people and they're animalistic, so with their thinking in that regard, so in that animalistic state, their primary drivers are lust and anger and sort of greed and things like that. So or also self-protection, like self-ego, like pride. So it's like placement within the context of your social circle. So whether you're higher or lower, that's your pride factor. And then who in your social circle you can target for flirting or for like a sexual contact or whatever, and you're not really limited to trying to find a single partner or like that. So in those contexts, I saw a testimony in this regard earlier today, where in that state of mind, seeing a couple and a husband and wife tied together, you actually become you have a desire to break that up. So you actually if you're a woman, you have a desire to go for that man, and if you're a man, you have a desire to go for that woman, because somewhere inside of you, you feel like those people are going against their natural state, which is to just be animalistic. They're actually like following some arcane rule that some god in the sky made, that they have to be husband and wife or father and mother. So you're like trying to prove them wrong by initiating some kind of secret liaison with one or two of them, so that they many of them live their lives like this, or end up living their lives like this, because they're driven by the sort of base instinct, right? And if they're driven with pride, they're going to seek after getting more money and sort of holding more people under their sway and having a more grand reputation within their circles, so that they can control things and have more bigger image. Which is, I'm not faulting any of that. I'm not saying that it's accusing people of doing that. I'm just saying that's what those emotions lead to. Like we all have those emotions, those feelings, and if we don't notice them, they take over, and they just, we are just like going along with those sensations until the time that we pass away, and it's okay. In that world, we think that passing away, we've created this idea that when we die, that's all there is. So it doesn't really, nothing matters, right? So the problem with that is and also they project this idea that someday we'll overcome that obstacle, that we're not going to die. So everybody lives thinking, oh yeah, well we're gonna beat that thing, and then one day they find that all of their sort of directionless aims of sort of, say they've accumulated a lot of wealth, or they've slept with a lot of women or men, it doesn't amount to much at that point in time. And then because I've been there many times, man, I've already died like so many times. I've been like in the hospital, or been with the seizures, and you name it. I'm still here with a smile on my face. So I know what it's like in those moments. And if your emotions aren't straight with your creator, and I'm going to bring that up because someone listening to me that's a agnostic or atheist, they're going to be constantly checking everything in my mind, in their mind, regarding what I'm saying. Okay, he's going to go back to the creator argument or the God argument, and they've already ruled out in their mind that that's a valid argument, because it's become so ingrained in them that it's basically okay to decide whatever you want. There's no arbiter. There's no arbitration about. It's all our own creation of what's good. And then there's no moral center other than the moral center of the culture that has created that moral center, and which may be true, but that's only true if they don't put God at the center. They put other imaginary gods, or just their own ideas, or just philosophical conclusions that they came up with, which everybody does anyway. But as a believer, you put your trust in the Word of God, which doesn't make it simple. Like some people who are agnostic might think, oh, you just choose to put your stock in the Word of God to make it easier. to make it more simple for you to make choices. It doesn't. That's not the case at all. It doesn't make it more simple. It just makes it so that you know, you have a firm ground to stand on, and you feel. And if you call that simple, then you're mistaken, because having a firm ground to stand on means you stand on principles, and standing on principles doesn't make you popular, and it's not easy. So actually, you're choosing a tougher road than just doing whatever you want and claiming that you're choosing you're the one in. You're the boss of your life, and that's the harder choice than putting God as the boss of your life. And in fact, it's not actually the harder choice, because we're, in a sense, it's, well, let me rephrase that. It's an easier choice to choose God, because when you do, then He will respond and, you know, make things more simple. By the time you end your life or end your journey here, you have a good feeling, because the people around you appreciate you for your generosity, your kindness, and you have your children are thankful toward you. They are raised to raise another generation of healthy and productive kids that don't have. By the time I got a little sidetracked. Let me get back to what I was saying about how the children are indoctrinated. So then, when they're growing up, going to school, these schools of indoctrination, they become quite vulnerable to influences by teachers, by the curriculum, and the teachers are not. I know, because I grew up with a bunch of strangers as my teachers, and trust me, a stranger, you could say that parents are not better for their children, but that's because society doesn't encourage the role of parenting, and doesn't emphasize that as a noble profession. Even as being a mother is hard work, and it's equal in work to the work that the work that anybody does in a regular job. In fact, more so, because they have to get up at 12 hours of the night sometimes just to take care of the baby, and for years on end. So if the baby is sick, I mean, think about it. If the child is sick, the mother does not have a day off, really. So like, to belittle that, and a father too. A proper father is always thinking of their child, always thinking of their education, of their income, of their well-being, of their emotional state. They put all, and to for the child, that means knowing that they have this advocate always on their behalf, you know. And if you grow up like I did, with strangers being your advocate, or just your parents being like, not even knowing what's going on in your mind, or not even being connected with you, because they're off at work, you're at school, you meet all these strange kids, you get the teachers are filling your head with crap, you go home, your parents and you are just completely in different worlds, you know. And you, as a parent, you've really lost. That's this society. This plan was enacted as the Industrial Revolution happened. The women came out of the home. The children were raised by strangers. The strangers that were raising the children were brought up, and the curriculum was designed to further this. And then the base instincts of these people take over. I'm talking about the adults, the teachers, the curriculum writers, and everybody. Their secret lusts, their secret ambitions, their secret, you know, like I talked about, their things that they don't talk about. Their desires to break up marriages, their desires, okay, there's a hot lady, why can't I get with her? She's with someone else. She just doesn't know that she likes me, actually. Watch me show her that she actually likes me. I can seduce her. Or if you're a woman, you think in the same way. That it's just whatever you want, right? There's no like you don't respect the institute of like the contract that man and woman have. Even if they're just dating, they're my friends, so it's off limits. But yeah, those rules are breaking down. They break down when kids go into those environments where there's no the kids, the adults that are not raising them or taking ownership of them. Like I grew up in a place where the teachers and so on did not take ownership of me. I was just another strange minion to them, and if they wanted to do something to me, they had every ability to, even if outwardly the rules said no. And I'm giving an example of a cult, a Hindu cult that I was raised in. They were professed to be Hinduism, to be following Hinduism, which doesn't exactly condone the things but it does also profess, and I'll probably get into that in some future videos. It does profess that taking away children as little kids from their parents is the right way to raise those children, so that it's better off to have them raised in the house of the guru. And so hence we were taken away from our parents and sent into this place with these strangers. And my takeaway from it was I just knew that this was wrong, that these people were not only were they not my parents, but they didn't have any care for me like a parent should. And like my way of dealing with those situations was to imagine myself as my own parent, and then imagine what I would say to myself, and then imagine how I would react to it. And whenever I did that, I was very comforted, because me as my parent said and did exactly what comforted me. And if I was like thought something was illogical that was being pushed upon me, then I could go to my imaginary parent myself and say, like, this doesn't make sense. And then my parent self would be like, yeah, you're right. It doesn't make any sense. Why are they? Yeah, I don't want to make you do that. You do it this way. And then myself would be talking to this imaginary parent and be like, yeah, thank you for understanding where I'm coming from. So that's how I dealt with having strangers raise me. I just created my own parents in my mind. And my parents were nice to me, and my parents were understood me, and they guided me in the right way. And they weren't mad at me all the time, and they listened to me. So yeah, I knew that was possible. When I was thinking that way, I was like, that's me as a parent. That's easy. That's how I would be. Why? That's like, it's common sense. I mean, like, so I just thought, well, if I ever grow up, these guys are nuts. These guys are crazy. I'm going to be a dad, and I'm going to do exactly what I want, and I'll prove them wrong. I'll show them that raising a kid in the right way produces a healthy, happy kid. We're not rebelling against good parents. We're rebelling. If there's any rebellion here, it's against idiots, right? Because they're telling us the wrong way. They're telling us we have to do this, get up at 4 a.m. If I was, I'm not learning anything productive. I'm learning some Sanskrit, and I'm learning how, all these arcane rules and stories of people throwing donkeys in the air and people being covered in vaginas. I mean, the Hindu stories are just completely crazy, so I was being raised to believe that, and Hindus actually believe this stuff. And then their logic goes out the window too. So I'm not saying to go against logic. I'm actually arguing in favor of logic. And the logic. So then, back to raising the children within these environments that are prone to having strangers around, influencing your children with their own lusts and their own passions, their own angers, their own prides, and so then the children are just absorbing all of that ugliness and just chaosness, because as a parent you have no idea what you're sending your child into. You're over there at work and you're thinking, oh, I got to do my boss this and I got to do my boss that. Meanwhile, your child is just being thrown around and comes home and you have no idea what even happened to them, and you don't have time to even get into it with them because you're tired and exhausted. So basically the whole idea with that idea was that theoretically, oh, if the children are just fodder, they're either workers or they get into it, and as elites we can just watch this and enjoy, and we can orchestrate how it takes place, So then what happened is these people that were raising the children, including my own teachers and people, were lusting over the children. So then they in their minds they started justifying, oh, children are sexual objects just like people are. If you're an adult, you're a sexual object. Why not children? They're easier to target because they don't really know what's going on. So if I target an adult, they're gonna clue into what's going on, and I'm gonna have a more difficult time getting what I want. So, put myself in a situation. So then you open up your children to these kinds of possibilities by just giving them to strangers or putting them out. So this whole society is slowly gearing itself toward that kind of a lawless, chaotic society where kids are victims of random strangers' ideas and thoughts. And then what happens really bad in that scenario is those people with those random stranger chaotic thoughts realize as adults that they are the ones that have those thoughts, and then they use them to diabolically target those weak people and to get into those positions where they have easy ability to target their victims. So, then it just spirals out of control. And now I won't get into it in detail, but many Islamists, it doesn't really matter actually what background you come from necessarily, but there is backgrounds that are more prone to this kind of strangeness, secretive strangeness. It's like veiled as a structured society, where in actuality the structure breaks down in private because those more base ideas are really at the core of the structures of those ways of dealing with things, like the lust or pride or anger. And the people that are against religion just see those things, pride, lust, greed, anger, whatever, as oh, you're just coming up with something to poke at me about. It's a thought, it's an idea. So what? You're making it bad. It's not really bad. It's just it's a thought. It's an idea. There's nothing wrong with greed. There's nothing wrong with lust. It's just a thought. It's just an idea, right? But their mind has been tricked into not thinking. They're not even capable of knowing the consequences of allowing those kinds of emotions or thoughts to take over their mind and take over their actions. So they just do it. They just let them, and they think they're in control. They're partially in control, but they're in control of allowing themselves to be controlled. That's where they have the control, is who they allow to control them. So or what sort of forces, what emotions, what that are out there, and they become more and more tied into those forces. Their eyes are just like constant weapons, or constant, or their voice is everything's a weapon or a strategy to get what they want, right? To get either some money or some power or some sex or something in between, depending on. So that's what's happening with society, because the evil ones, the ones I told you that are the diabolical ones, are the ones, the sort of benign ones are just going about their lives and working and you know, trying to raise a family and blah, blah, blah. But it's like one bad apple spoils the bunch. So it takes one of these teachers to ruin like 40 children, and you putting your children in the fangs of these people. So then, you know, you're just spreading chaos. And like I said, many people are innocent, but only one. It only takes a few, and then pretty soon you're getting many of these ruined kids. And it happened during the pandemic when everybody was stuck on their phones, and then they were targeted with sexual, you know, influence, and they were more and more just led into reacting and judging themselves based on other people's reaction, right? And the whole purpose of all these reaction, and judging from reaction, and making decisions based on the people's reactions is the algorithms created by these devices, where there's these technocrats are watching the algorithms and experimenting with people's emotions, or observing how their emotions are playing out, and not really caring. They project the outcome of those algorithms as they're playing out, but the goal of it is, in general, is just to you know, stay where they are and watch it play out, and let people chaotically interact with each other based on these sort of base emotions like lust, and it gets them off, you know. And what better reason can they come up with than to get themselves off? And they think they're going to perpetually get themselves off, and then find a way not to die, and then they can just do that forever. And they're just projecting that and thinking that eventually either they'll get it figured out or their ancestors. And they're using every means within their. I'm going to get back to what I'm talking about: a godly life. So a godly life is the kind of the opposite of everything I've been talking about. And that's why society is such a wreck now, in my opinion, because and for most of my adult life, because I was raised in that Hindu cloistered background, then I rebelled. I just became an agnostic for most of it. I didn't really have this point of view. I just had the point of view of like live and let live, which basically means if I can't get something that I want, it's only because of my limitations, and I'm limited because I have a spinal cord injury. I'm a quadriplegic, so therefore the world just randomly took away my ability to get what I want. Otherwise, I'd be able to get a lot more of what I want. So I just have to accept that I can't get what I want, try my best to get what I want, and then, you know, in the process of die trying. That's a good life for me, right? But that didn't work. That's a theoretical framework for a life. Just like if you're walking, you have more equipment, like you have 10 fingers, or you have a brain. I'm giving a brain, you know, and I'm saying no. I'm saying being raised by parents who know you, look out for you, help you to set out your course in your life, find what you're good at, help you to discern good partners to get in touch with when you're an adult, and how to make partnerships with them, and how to find a mate, how to raise children, how to deal with all the technical aspects of life, how to, you know, find the parents' task is to look at the children and find what they're best at, and we humans are built and designed to do this. It comes natural to us. If we're put in the situations, we're good at it. We're good at raising children. We're good at. The society has caused us to be these chaotic, passion and anger-filled beings, because we're being triggered all the time by these bad apples that are putting these out into the airwaves to to try to suck you into their world and then manipulate you so that you're just a target or a product that makes money for them or makes enjoyment or entertainment, right? As a sort of an algorithm, right? An enjoyable algorithm to observe. It's like you watch a movie, you're watching a little bit of an algorithm, you're observing people's behaviors. They're watching all of our behaviors and observing them in the same way and trying to influence outcomes. And it's partially random, but because we're all driven by these lusts and chaotic emotions that are, according to the Bible, are demonic forces that are intentionally trying to separate us from our true, happy state, which would just be to have a purpose and better the outcome of the future generations and their ability to make productive lives and to be happy and to work with their hands. If they're an engineer, if they're a doctor, find out a nurse, something that they could do in life to make society happier and more productive and more comfortable, and go towards God, putting God at the center. That's the idea of the Bible. And that's why there's such a hatred toward the Bible. And God specifically tasked, and I don't care if any of you don't want to hear this, but he specifically tasked the Jews to hold on to this information and to keep it so that in the future generations, like where we are now, it would still be there for us to look at. If the Jews hadn't kept it so, and sure, the Bible, if they had killed all the Jews by now, let's just say all the Jews have been killed, or there's no such thing as Israel anymore, then, and there's no such thing as a people that idolizes Israel. Like the Jews were trained by the Lord to have this idea of Israel in their mind as a place where God was worshipped and where they belonged. If the Bible didn't put that into them, that wouldn't exist today. And they've fought through, all the generations holding on to this idea, some kind of ingrained in the DNA by God, by our ancestors, that this Torah, it has information that is important, it's vitally important. Now, that vital information, if you read it, which I have many times, the underlying theme of it is that God cares about humans and wants to get them out of this trap that they're in, and so he only had one way to do it, because he wasn't really going to force them to do it, but he could see that there were other forces that were acting against his plan. So ultimately, as the Bible lays out, from my point of view of reading it, is that it lays out the Old Testament is setting the stage for Jesus, who had to come in order to throw a wrench into the machine of the devil and all these forces, and just basically someone to come here that was completely righteous and was completely truthful, completely loving, and had direct connection with the source of everything, so that he could take all of our all of that lust and anger, and basically show us that we don't need to take the judgment for that. He would take the judgment, and thereby everybody would look at him, would turn their eyes and look at him and say, that's a person that I want to follow. That's God, because only God could do that. And he was born of a woman and not a man, not an earthly man. So he was human and also of God. And
Almost done. To bed.
oh yeah, no worries. So yeah, like if the Jews, that's why there's such a the two different worldviews that I've been talking about this whole time are so opposed. The one that doesn't support the Bible is vehemently opposed to the state of Israel, even more so than they're aware of, because it comes from a spiritual place, where they want to deny that the Jews focus on God, and the Bible's claim that this singular God has a purpose for humanity. They want to get back, and even like someone like Hitler wrote this down. You can look it up. He specifically wrote that if he could kill off the Jews, then humans could go back to being barbaric again, and that was a much more desirable state from his point of view than always putting God in front, because in his mind it just put an unnecessary guilt on people's conscience, so whereby they could no longer just act on however they wanted to, and then in his mind, it limited the potential of human beings to achieve things. Okay, so thereby he went about and just slaughtered people that weren't agreeable to him, because he didn't really have any qualms about it. That was his. So in a world like that, everybody has free reign to do whatever they want, and eventually you're all going to be slaves. Trust me. Slaves to your own ambitions, or slaves, but those people in charge, those bad apples, are going to be the ones that ultimately cause enough chaos that you're not going to be able to get back to the way God intended, which is to have children, to raise them right, to give them a good life, to give yourself a good life. That's my point. So I hope I've made it well. I'm going to try and post this video. I don't know exactly where what title say to give this video. I'll have to think about that. But yeah, you get the gist of what I'm saying. I covered a lot of ground, and it has to do with the state of the world now, and what can be done about it. All right, so God bless you, and read the Bible from the point of view of a reasonable, intelligent, human being that wants to know what's going on. And if there's stuff that's confusing, which it will be 100%, then if you really want to know, you're going to sincerely keep at it. Otherwise, I don't know what to say. You're being driven by those other things that we talked about, the pride, and you don't realize it, but that's a fact. And you're okay with it. Perhaps you're okay with just living till the end of your life like that, assuming that nothing comes afterwards. That's a big assumption, and you're willing to make it. But I would caution you otherwise, and I would say to open your mind to perceiving otherwise. Go to sleep. Okay. I have a voice control set up on my phone, so if I say a number, it just pauses the video, so I had to turn it off. Anyway, have a good night, and I will see you on the next video. Wake up. Wake up. 3